better, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up. And she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, who touched me? And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing that what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of thy plague. Amen. Ephesians chapter number 6 and verse number 16. And it says, above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And the people of God said, God bless you, amen. Look at somebody today, amen, and tell them, saint, faith moved Jesus. Now look at somebody else and tell them the same thing. Saint, faith moved Jesus. Now give God a 5-second hand praise, and you may be seated in the house of the Lord. Amen. Amen. You know, I looked at this scenario in Mark, and amen, I don't know how many times that I have read it, but I promise you I've read it more than once. Amen. And we talk about this woman that for 12 years had an issue of blood. Amen. That qualifies her as being unclean. And yet she touched Jesus, and Jesus right away, amen, acknowledged it. And I want to not talk about her right at the moment, but let me just go past her and come back to her, if you would allow me, and talk about the crowd that was around Jesus. See, I know I told you to say to somebody, faith moved Jesus. But just for a few minutes, I want to talk about the absence of faith. Amen. See, this woman was not the only one that was in the crowd. It was a crowd of people that thronged Jesus, or in other words, they couldn't help but rub shoulders with the master. Amen. They were so crowded around him. Amen. And everybody was brushing up against the disciples couldn't keep the people off of Jesus. Amen. And all of them was around him, but I don't hear of any miracles being done to anybody in that crowd. Amen. There were many folks that brushed up against Jesus in this scenario. There were many folks that touched, amen, the clothing that he wore. I would dare say there were a lot of people that even made skin contact with Jesus. And yet I don't hear of anybody getting a miracle done on their behalf. Make no mistake about it, children of God, everybody needs